Welcome to my experiment in obedience. My name is Corinne, and if you have found this Bible study, I am so excited that you're here. I have been in children's ministry my entire life, but about 2 years ago, I was heavily prompted by the Lord to step down from children's ministry and everything that I know to be open and available to other opportunities in the church. It wasn't long after that I was asked to do some of the Wednesday night teachings for our ladies, and that's when I found it. I knew where I was supposed to go next. I have felt so fulfilled on that very first night of teaching, more than I had in ministry in a very long time, and it became crystal clear to me. So fast forward to now, I've started a Sunday night Bible study for adults. There's both men and women, couples and singles in this study, and we have started in the beginning. We are taking a deeper look at the events that started it all. So join me today for Genesis chapter 1. The first thing I always tell my Sunday night group is that I am not an authority on this. I am not a scholar. I am not a theologian. I am a follower of Christ, and my desire is to know more about the creator of the universe. I believe that the Bible is God's word, and God's word is true, and it is relevant and applicable today. So before we jump in head first to Genesis, let's all make sure we're looking at this in the same direction through the same lens. We're going to look at this more later, but Genesis, especially the creation story and this event of Creation Week, it is a literal account, and the text is going to support that as we go a little deeper. Genesis is one of those books that has an unidentified author. It happened 3 centuries before Moses, but the Old Testament and the New Testament are in agreement that Moses is the author. As you move through the book of Genesis, you'll find that this happened over 3,000 years in this one book of 50 chapters. This is a jam-packed book. There are 3 geographical settings in the book of Genesis. Chapters 1 through 11 is set in Mesopotamia. Chapters 12 through 36 are the Promised Land, and 37 through 50 are Egypt. The name Genesis itself comes from the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation, and it literally means beginnings, which is pretty appropriate because that's where it all started. Like I said before, this is a literal account of literal people who experienced literal things. This is not a collection of myths or figurative, hypothetical, abstract concepts. With that in mind, let's jump in to Genesis chapter 1. Today, I'm going to be reading from the New King James Version. I bounce back and forth between that and the NIV or the New International Version, but for this chapter, we're going to stay right in the New King James because there's not really a difference in those two, but there's a couple of word choices that I feel are stronger and more descriptive in the New King James. So if you will, if you have a Bible, you're welcome to flip to it. We're going to start in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. Then God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." Thus God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. So the evening and the morning were the second day. Then God said, "Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herbs that yield seed, and the fruit tree that yield fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth." And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, the herb that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. So the evening and the morning were the third day. Then God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons and for days and years, and let them be for light in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth." And it was so. Then God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. God set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. So the evening and the morning were the fourth day. Then God said, "Let the waters abound with abundance of living creatures, and let the birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament of the heavens." So God created great sea creatures and every living thing that moves, with which the waters abound, according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth." So the evening and the morning were the fifth day. Then God said, "Let the earth bring forth the living creatures according to its kind, cattle and creeping things and beasts of the earth, each according to its kind." And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth according to its kind, cattle according to its kind, and everything that creeps on the earth according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." And God said, "See, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seeds. To you it shall be for food. Also, to every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, in which there is life, I have given every green herb for food." And it was so. Then God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. So the evening and the morning were the sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth and all the hosts of them were finished. And on the seventh day God ended his work which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it he rested from all his work which God had created and made. There's a lot of times that I feel my week is busy, and then I read that and I think, oh my goodness. So in Genesis 1:1, let's go back and take a deeper look at some of these events and these actual days. The Bible opens at the beginning of all earthly creation, our physical universe. In verse 2, it said it was without form and void. Simply put, from the Hebrew, that created sphere that we call earth was initially empty and unshaped. We immediately see the Spirit of God. This is our first glimpse of the Trinity. God the Son had not taken on human form yet, but we know from John 1 that he was there from the beginning, and we will see the first reference to the Messiah in chapter 3. The Spirit of God was hovering. That word from the Hebrew means fluttering. Like a mother chicken, as she flutters over her chick, we see the Spirit of God as he shapes his creation. In verse 3, we see that God said he created everything with his word, with the only exception being mankind, his most beloved creation that he formed with his loving hands. As we move into a little deeper of day 1, we see the word light. Some argue that there could not be light without the sun. But John 1:5 says that this is the message we have heard from him and declare to you. God is light. In him there is no darkness at all. We see that God separated the light from the darkness, the first of several divisions established at creation. This seems self-evident in the earthly realm, but becomes spiritually significant after Adam sins. In verse 5, we see that God calls the light day. He chose to name some aspects of creation and bestowed authority to Adam over others, but in that, he still retains absolute authority over the physical elements of creation, including the cycle of the earth that we know today. This is the first time we see the phrase, the evening and the morning. It's at the end of day 1. Some argue that it is impossible without the sun, but the sun does not create those things. It's the rotation of the earth set on its axis by God as it moves that creates light and day. So we didn't need the sun for the morning and the evening. We had God lighting his creation. We also see the phrase, the first day. There is a day and age theory that suggests this is figurative time. that maybe hundreds or thousands or millions of years had passed. We're going to see more about why that is actually an impossible idea later in these couple of days. But let's go back to what this book is. Moses wrote this as a literal account of people and events. Let's look at day 2. We see that God creates a divide, separating the waters above from the waters on earth. He calls it a firmament. Some might say a vault. It's the sky. In verse 8, God called the firmament heaven. Once again, we see God name physical aspects of creation, retaining his authority over all things in it. It's important to remember the heavens are the heavenly realms, but God existed before creation, and so he didn't create heaven that day, but he did create the heavens, the sky, and all of the things in them, and the earth. On day 3, we see that God separates dry land from the seas, and then creates plant life. In verse 11, it says, "Let the earth bring forth grass." The earth is now ready to sustain life on day 3. He called life into existence. We see the phrase, "according to its kind," often repeated. This is to emphatically state standalone creation. There is no room for evolution. Only grass can come from grass. Everything else was created on a different day. It is really important to note the order of creation. God did not create anything unable to survive or sustain life. So on day 4, we see God create the sun. Now remember before there was light and darkness and there's a morning and an evening. Well, now we see the sun and the moon and the stars, even other planets. Because in verse 14 it says he put lights in the firmament. Until now there was no need. God is the light of the world. Right here is where we are going to solidify that these were literal days. I don't know how many hours were in a day back then, but we know a day is 24 hours. Regardless of how many hours they split it in back then, we saw a morning and an evening during creation. This had to be a literal day because plants were created on day 3. I don't have a tremendously great green thumb. Maybe you do, but I do know that a plant can go 24 hours without sunlight, but it can't go weeks or months or hundreds or thousands or millions of years without light. So God created plant life and all of the green things, and then he created the sun the next day to keep him alive. He also said that these lights would be for signs and seasons and days and years. The intention here has always been for us to use them to mark the passage of time. They would also serve as a sign of his great power. You might even be able to think of a star used in the New Testament to find the greatest gift God ever gave mankind. There is power in creation and the order that God did it in. On day 5, we see that God created the fish and the birds. In verse 20, it says, "Let the water abound." Evolution teaches that birds evolved from fish, but we see in creation that they were created on the exact same day, according to its kind. Again, we see Moses reiterate that only fish can come from fish and birds can come from birds. God blessed them in verse 22, and for the first time, God spoke directly to his creatures and his creation. His first words were words of blessing, saying to them, "Be fruitful and multiply." That was the first commandment. On day 6, God creates land animals and then mankind by his own hand. In verse 25, God saw that it was good. This is repeated after every part of creation, as God is not only saying that it is good, but that it is finished. This is a word of completion, that it is complete and there is nothing more to add. It's basically God's mic drop at the end of every day. So time out for 1 second. If you've ever been asked or asked the question yourself, what came first, the chicken or the egg? We see in day 6 that God created everything in complete form and ready to follow its commandments to be fruitful and multiply. God did not create larvae and eggs and little tiny things that couldn't fend for themselves. He created complete, mature creation, ready to be fruitful and multiply. So biblically, you believe that the chicken came first. In verse 26, it says, "Let us make man in our image." This is the first time he is speaking to himself, revealing the Trinity was there from the beginning. He was not talking to the angels. We have already seen his spirit hovering over the waters, and we know he is God in 3 persons, revealing his triune nature from the onset of creation. It says, "according to our likeness." This is a very important distinction because up until this point, the earth had brought forth all creation according to its kind and in the image of the earth. Mankind is different from the rest of creation. No other part of creation was created in the image and likeness of God with his own hands. He gave Adam dominion from the beginning. God retained authority over creation, but he gave mankind authority over other sentient life, which just means under life forms that can't think for themselves. They live and breathe on their own, but they don't have the same reasoning capability that we do. At this point, we see that it is very good. All of other creation was good. Each part was complete, but creation as a whole was not complete without mankind, an overseer to govern it, created in his, God's own image to rule over lower life forms, and the image of God is very good. Both male and female were complete creation made in his image and likeness, with no room for other interpretations of that creation. On day 7, God declares his work finished and rested. Finished, meaning nothing more required. It is done and complete. God ended his work and rested. He did not need a break or a nap, but his creation was perfect and complete, and nothing else was needed, so he abstained from creating anything further. When he rested, he established our work cycle that we know today and the future Sabbath ordinance from Moses based on Creation Week. There is a lot in Genesis chapter 1. We just scratched the surface. I hope you find this encouraging. I hope you find this helpful. And I hope you'll come back next time for Genesis chapter 2 as we take a deeper look and a closer inspection of Adam and Eve.